Dakota, Rob, what's up, guys? Good to have you on the podcast. I think actually this might be the first time I've had two people on, at least remotely. So this will be an experiment. We'll see how this goes today.
Well, I couldn't think of two better people to have on.
I mean, if we're gonna try it, this is the two guys to do it with, right?
Let's be the dummies, man. We're pretty good at playing that part.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dakota, I've been connected with you for years at this point. You came on the podcast very early on, and Rob, we kind of been dancing around on the fringes a little bit. We've got some mutual friends, so to be able to connect with you guys, two American heroes, and when I say that, like legitimate American heroes, man, what an honor to be able to join you guys and have you here on the podcast.
No, well, thanks so much. We're glad to be here.
I appreciate you having us. Seriously, thanks for the time.
Yeah. You bet. Tell me about the new book. Cause look, I'm going to come out of the gates like this. There's a lot of veterans and military members who come out with books on leadership and the principles that you guys have learned in combat. And so I'm really anxious to know what makes this different and then how we can utilize that. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be 1% or so of Americans that serve in the military, and how that translates over into most of the men who are listening who are, civilians and don't have any time in service.
Yeah. I think this book is very different. When we set out to go around, I mean, obviously you publish books, so you understand how the process works of going around and pitching to different publishers and figuring out, it's not only them seeking if they want your book, but, me and Rob were very adamant with our publisher, or not with our publisher, with our agent, and with everybody helping put this together, that it wasn't just about who offered us a deal, but it was about having the right team on board, because the message of this book and getting it out and making sure, our purpose of the book was way more important than anything else behind it. Making sure that we felt like they would get the message out, making sure that, that our interest in our message and our idea would stay solid through the whole process was something that we were focused on the whole time. And that's why we chose to go with HarperCollins. And, the big idea for us is we both felt like, let's be honest, there's a lot of people that came back and they wanted, like, being famous and having a book out and being able to talk about themselves was absolutely everything they wanted to do, right? Give them 5 seconds and they're going to tell you every war story they can. Yeah. That wasn't me and Rob, and we both get accused of it a lot, but honestly, that's what people ask us. That's what people want to hear from us, and this was kind of our book, to where we could talk about more than just, look, being a Medal of Honor recipient at the Battle of Ganjgal and the man that killed bin Laden. We wanted to come out and provide the stories that, hey, look, we're just like everybody else. Like, we're just two guys that chose to try to make the world a better place. And we're all the same in that aspect. And that was kind of the gist behind this book of making sure that we could humanize war, right? Like, war has been romanticized since 9/11. It's been the way the books have been wrote, the way these stories have been told. I mean, we've got our children literally playing video games about the shit that keeps us awake at night. That's how much it was romanticized. And, me and Rob look at each other and we're like, listen, we didn't do anything special. Like, we were just there, and we are literally, we rose to the occasion. And that's about the difference between us and people who don't, right?
I mean, if you strip it all away, I think, yes, I think you're right. You rose to the occasion, but to say you didn't do anything special, I think does a disservice to the work that you guys have done, because anybody from the outside looking in is going to say, no, that's special. That's unique. That's different. And I'm not sure that everybody would do what you guys have done.
But what I think we're saying, I know what I'm saying is, you got a dude from Kentucky, a dude from Montana that, either raising chickens or trying to shoot free throws, whatever the hell we were doing. And then you end up in these situations, we all come from somewhere, and we're kind of proving that as long as you make yourself available, you can pretty much do anything if you keep a positive attitude. Something we all have in common, most of us, is we've all had our first day somewhere, and we've all been scared at some point. It's nervous, and the more you put yourself out there. One of my favorite quotes is, "Wherever you are, be there." something that I've learned is that if you just give it time, time heals everything. No matter what you're doing, how uncomfortable it is, you're going to get used to it. And you know, if you can help to surround yourself with good people, make yourself available, and you can get picked for anything. You can do anything you want, and just stay there. And the whole, you know, just don't be the person that cowers in the corner when something happens. You need to rise up and do it. Most of us are the same. I mean, even when I first went to the Navy, I was from Butte, Montana, and all I knew in that bubble was that Butte, Montana was the center of the earth for me, and that's all I'm doing. And people from Chicago or Miami or Los Angeles are better than me because they're from somewhere else. But then I go to boot camp, and this is just Navy boot camp. And you know, there were the tough guys from the Bronx. There were gang members from Southern California. But it's all our first day there, and we're all pretty much the same. It was kind of a unique new experience, and I think what we're doing is trying to be relatable for everything. And most things that we do, the lessons that we learn, you're gonna find a lot of the same similarities, and there's very, you know, there's not a whole lot of them, and we're all kind of cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, well, you know, what's interesting to hear you guys talk is you're both, I don't know if you would agree with this, but from the outside looking in and from what we see on social media, and that's a whole other conversation, is you guys tend to be two pretty polarizing figures, whether by design or not. I can't imagine that it is, because Rob, I've heard you talk about there's no left and right. We're here as Americans, right? But yet it's so polarized. And I see what you guys post on social media, and I can't imagine the level of hostility and vitriol that you receive by simply posting things that I anyways interpret to be, you know, positive messages about reclaiming America and doing what's right and standing for what's good and true, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure the social media is not real. And again, I love to throw quotes out from people who are smarter than me. One of my favorite quotes from Babe Ruth, he said, the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. So the person yelling at you on Twitter is sometimes not even a real person. But when you actually get out amongst it with the real people, because something we say in this book, it's a big planet, but it's a small world. Most people agree. Real America has each other's backs. They don't like what's going on. And just there's a loud few that control a lot of the aspects of how we can, you know, how we communicate with each other. But I mean, even people that I know people I've yelled at on social media, but in person we get along. It's like,
yeah.
I think it's such a point that you're not even yelling at a person; you're yelling at what someone said you disagree with at your screen.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Is yeah. I mean, we do. I mean, listen. I mean, I was responding to a guy that was just talking shit to me on Rob's Twitter feed or Instagram feed this morning.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing is and so going back to where you said, oh, we did something special. Well, we really didn't, Ryan. I mean, if you were there, I mean, you do shit that's special all the time. You know, everybody on the face of the planet that does stuff that's special all the time for no recognition, right? And we just did our job. And I truly believe that, right? I truly believe that, like, that if you had been standing there the day that I was on September 8, 2009, you'd have done the exact same thing. You want to know how and why I believe that? Because it's the right thing to do. All I did was the right thing to do in that moment, right? It's literally that simple. I mean, I've never been the fastest, the best shooter. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I was not any of that. I loved people. I believed in the idea of humans. And I just did what I felt was right at that moment. And I wasn't going to let anything else dictate what I did. And so, you know, for all the people out there, yeah, I mean, there's tons and tons of haters. You know, and we are polarizing, but are we polarizing because, you know, because like it's why we are polarizing? We're polarizing because we don't care to tell you how we feel. We don't care to state what 90% of the people in the room are thinking. Me and Rob just go ahead and say it out loud. Yeah. You know why? And the difference in us and everybody else is we live life on our own terms. Nobody tells me what to do. I don't owe anybody. I know that at the end of the day, am I wrong a lot? 100%. But guess what? I'm okay with saying that. Like, hey, you know what? I was wrong. I apologize. What's next, right? And there's all these people that just, you know, that is threatening to them. That's threatening to them. When there's people out there who can not only they think about it, they verbalize it, and then on the backside of it, they live it. They live it, right? And that's the thing is you can call me a lot of things. I mean, I was walking out, I dropped Rob off at a podcast, actually I was leaving a podcast the other day, and there was a guy who literally was sitting in the corner up there. As I walk out, he just comes up to me. I'd never seen him in my life, and he goes, "Man, met you one time, and I always hated you because you're an asshole." He goes, "But man, you changed my life, and I just wanted to shake your hand and tell you that that you changed my life." And so it's like, do you not like what I say? Is it because you don't like it, or is it because it's wrong? There's a big difference.
Well, I think what it actually is that we interpret, just generally speaking, somebody who speaks their mind, like both of you gentlemen do, as being an asshole because we're not familiar with it, because nobody speaks their mind. They're tiptoeing on eggshells, and it's very rare. I think, I don't know, maybe that's not fair. In certain circles, I'll say, at least on social, to find somebody who's willing to stand by their convictions, say what they mean, and then when somebody says it, everybody freaks out because they're not used to experiencing somebody who has the balls to say what's on their mind.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got with this idea, I see this in the fire service a lot. This idea of brotherhood, or whatever you want to call it, has changed from, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to push you to be your best. It's changed from that to, I want you to like me. I want you to like me. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I just want you to like me, and that's how it is. And that's the exact opposite of what brotherhood is. Brotherhood is me holding you accountable to the standard that I know that you're capable of achieving, that even when you don't feel like it, right? It's literally that iron sharpens iron. And that's what, I talk to people the way I want to be talked to. If I'm wrong, like, you better call me out. Like, you better call me out in front of everyone, and you better, like, don't ever let me be wrong and let me continue to be wrong after you've recognized that, because then why are you my friend?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people will bitch and moan about what you said that's right or wrong, but they won't do it to your face. They'll go around and they'll talk about you to other people, and they're kind of dancing on these fringes when, men come to each other and talk to each other face to face precisely because we care. If we didn't care, then we'd be oblivious or indifferent to the truth, or at least exposing some things that maybe you've said that I don't necessarily agree with, for example.
Yeah, I mean, why did we as men? I mean, literally, we were put on earth to provide, protect. Why have we gotten so far away from? Why are we so scared of conflict? I mean, isn't like there is no accountability without conflict. There's none. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, if you're not comfortable with conflict, well, you're in the wrong game, right? I mean, look, you better get out of the jungle, because you're just a little house cat.
Rob, what do you think about that when it comes to accountability with conflict, and why I think this is generally societally true. Why are we so afraid of this conflict?
People don't really like the hard conversation. And me as a leader, I was a team leader at SEAL Team 6, and that's having the hard conversation with like tier 1 assets. It's a difficult thing to do because there's going to be a conflict there. And, I don't think you ever needed to resort to getting physical with each other as far as teammates and all that stuff. But there's different ways. Like, I had a boss that instead of yelling at me because I get defensive, he would say, instead of coming right at me, he would say, "Man, you're just better than that," and like leave. It's like, oh shit, I'll never do that again.
That's like when your parents say they're disappointed in you and then just walk away
and leave. But right now, you can't even, people don't even want to have a disagreement of ideas or say, "I think you're wrong about this." They just start name calling. And it just becomes such a society of, if I knock someone out, I'm getting sued. Because they just know there's weenie little ways around. I mean, a real man wouldn't do that. Wouldn't sue someone else for knocking him out and just take his lumps or whatever. But conflict's kind of gone away. Have you seen those pictures online where like two dudes are arguing and all they do is they don't yell, but they just keep flipping each other off? Like it's like a silent film fight for beta males.
Have you seen, there's the one of the video of the dogs, they're behind a gate and they're yapping at each other, and then they open the gate and they both go run off. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, of course. I don't know. I mean, there's nothing, it's not even, I mean, conflict doesn't need to be physical. Like I said, conflict is even just disagreeing, saying, no, I disagree with this and here's why. And like we've lost a lot of the art to debate, because if you say, hey, here's a problem, and you can't even tell the truth because you're labeled an ism, or you don't like this race, or you're a transphobe, or you're Islamophobe, or you're whatever. They just start calling you names. It's like, and the problem with that is it's like the whole the boy who cried wolf. Like if everything's racist, nothing's racist. We used to say in the military, because everyone's so soft now and everyone needs to be inclusive, that everyone, you guys probably noticed this, everything was special operations something. It's like, these are special operations janitors. This is special operations administration. It's like, if everything's special, nothing is special.
Nothing is.
And they're just bland, making everything so fucking bland. It's a result of, whatever. There's great people everywhere. Again, I don't want to lump people in, because most of the bullshit we hear is on social media and TV. Like, most people are good, but I mean, we keep dumbing it down. You're gonna get what you're having in China and Russia right now, when they're over there pumping oil, and all we want to do is say the number one thing for our national defense is to fight climate change and make our ships in the Navy green. It's ridiculous.
Right. Well, I think this is the value of the conversations that we're having here. I know I've even just in the past week personally had interactions that were less than favorable, we'll say, on social media. And then you get on the horn with these guys and the tone is completely different. And so I think it's important that, I love social media. You said it's not real. I contend with that a little bit. I get what you're saying. It's virtual. There's a lot of ways to hide behind it, but it's also created opportunities like this where we can have real meaningful conversations.
Oh yeah, there's good to it. It's just, the scumbags have come out like they always do.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's up to us individually to curate it and then to move it into, real life, where you're having real conversations, or you're doing this, or even getting together face to face.
Well, it's a Trojan horse for the cowards, though. That's the problem with social media, is it's a Trojan horse for the cowards, and it allows them to lie to themselves and to lie to others, to pretend like that they are something that they're not, right? And that's the problem with it. And it gives them a platform to say things that they would never say. And I'm a true believer. Like, do not let anything come out of your mouth that you wouldn't say if the person was standing right there in front of you, right? And these people, it allows them to sit in their mom's basement and talk shit and that's where men have gotten weak, right? And look, and I agree with Rob. Like, I don't care anything about violence anymore, right? Like, I don't care anything about, I hear these guys like, oh, I train at my house and I just pray somebody breaks in my house. And I'm like, I don't, I carry concealed. And I tell you, my prayers to God are that I don't ever have to pull a weapon at somebody again, right? That I don't have to hurt somebody, that I don't have to, because no matter what, like, and that's, this is a good turn into the book of, that's kind of what me and Rob were bringing together is I might be justified to take out this evil person, but I hurt a lot of people around them. I hurt that person's mom and dad. I hurt that person's kid, that child, whatever people that love them. Yeah, I might take out somebody bad, but I'm going to hurt a lot of people along the way doing it, right? And it's, these things aren't black and white. It's not like the movies. It's not like the books that were wrote that we just killed all these bad guys. Yeah, we killed a lot of bad guys, but guess what we did? We hurt a lot of families. And to humanize these things is just an aspect that we tried to do with the book. The way forward is humanizing these events that, not only did we talk about growing up in our family who made huge influences on us, but, also, taking the lives of the enemy who was going to take ours at the same thing, but then realizing that gosh, this person has children standing right here. This person has a mom and dad that's going to miss them no matter what. And understanding that at the end of the day, that we're all way more alike than we're not.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How about even with I'm not justifying a lot of actions, but the bad guys never think they're the bad guys. They believe in what they're doing as much as we believe in what we're doing. And that's just the realization, the human element of what's actually going on. And then you can tell too, again, going back to social media, and it's become so glorified, like Dakota was saying about war, how it's like, whenever I see like those, I always say on Insta, I didn't know all my friends were millionaires and private jets and war heroes till I got on Instagram. But like, right. You'll see those dudes that sell those shirts that say, I like to kick down doors and shoot fuckers in the face. My response is, no, you don't. No, because you don't know what. How about the one I saw? I saw a great meme. This dude is literally in Disneyland. He's got a Mickey Mouse hat on, and it says, "If you see me running, lead, follow, or get out of the way." And I'm thinking, what do you think is going to happen today in the Magic Kingdom, homie?
Yeah,
I think that's reserved. That kind of thought process is reserved for people who have never had to actually be in that situation.
It is.
Like you guys. I am really curious about what you're talking about, Dakota, when you talk about humanizing these individuals that, let's just put it bluntly, that you guys have killed. And I would say righteously. I think the military probably, and even ourselves as a defense mechanism, probably try to dehumanize our enemies so that we can deal with that. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm trying to understand this.
You have to.
But does humanizing it though help you heal, or like, how do you strike that balance between humanization and dehumanization between your enemies?
You have a choice. I don't think it's up to you to humanize them or not. I think it's the further you get from war and the realization that combat's not normal. It seemed normal at the time because everyone I know is doing it. But once you get, wake up at 3:30 in the morning and you're thinking about, like, there's one guy I think about every single day, and it's in the book, The Way Forward, how he wasn't even the first dude I killed in the house, but I killed him in his bedroom in front of his family. And I've thought about, the only reason I killed him, he did go for a gun. I was well within my rules of engagement, but the only reason that he and I had a problem is because we were born in different parts of the world. And I wonder, like, if we met somewhere else, would we have had a cup of coffee and a laugh?
Yeah, I mean, and that's it's the same thing I've talked about many times, is about this guy killed with the rock, right? And just the, like, I look, everywhere from seeing people die in combat to seeing people die, over here in America, right? As a firefighter, I see these, there's this moment that people have this look in their face when, if they're conscious, that you just know that they're just, they know they're going to die. Right. And I remember that moment hitting with that guy and just thinking to myself, I don't even know this guy. Like, I don't even know him. In
the moment you were thinking that?
So, I mean, I doubt I thought about it in the moment, but like, I see this guy every day. He's the only guy that I think about. Like, out of everything that happened, like, he's literally the only guy I ever think about. The only guy that ever comes to mind of war, right? Unless I'm consciously trying to think about it. But I remember, I do think that there was a pause there to where I'm just like, I don't even know this guy. Yeah. And there's nothing fun about it. When you hear people talk about that, I like shooting guys. No, they don't.
You've never done it.
No, they don't.
Right.
No, they don't.
Right.
There's no one on the face of the planet that wakes up and looks forward to killing other people unless they're a psycho, right?
Psychopath.
But it's just like, so you asked about like humanizing. So I call it humanizing versus objectifying, right? Like, look, when I'm on a fire truck or I'm going out and I'm running a call, yeah, I mean, I have to objectify that person, because if I start thinking about that they're a human being and I look over and I see their wife sitting there as I'm doing CPR on them, I can't take it, right? I mean, it's overwhelming, the emotions, and I have to look at this as a systematic approach. And so I think the same thing is there in the military. But I think that at the end of the day, you can't help but at some point that this is going to be humanized, right? And I think this is where and it helps you process it, and you have to be able to make sense with it. And I look at that guy and I always wonder, that guy changed my life more than any single individual on the face of the planet. And he made me a better person. you know, he gave me the power to have love and empathy and understand that we're all a lot closer than we think, right? To be able to look at somebody and understand what you know, what really matters between people, and to be able to empathize and to be able to understand that you should choose love over hate every single time, because hate will only go so far.
So one of the things that a lot of people ask me about the podcast is sometimes I have gentlemen like yourself or other people, and they've said to me, you know, I have a hard time relating with these guys. One of the things that you guys talk about in the book is overcoming battles. And so the odds that somebody is going to be in the situation that both of you were presented with is very unlikely. So what are some of the battles that the readers of this book or just listeners might be overcoming, and how do you work them through those struggles?
I think it kind of resorts back to what I was saying about thinking because someone's somewhere else, they're better than you. And a lot of people they think it's like the whole break glass in case of war. And, you know, even though if I have a few cocktails, I will say I came out of the skylight to kill bin Laden, obviously. I'm kidding. But, you know, just normal people doing normal stuff. But like, we get asked a lot of questions. And here's something that we all can relate to, and especially for younger men. Someone says, if you can go back to 15-year-old Rob O'Neill and give him any advice, what would it be? My first piece of advice would be ask her out. Whoever she is, it scares the shit out of you. Ask her out. Like I said, we're all afraid. No, she's too pretty. Bullshit. Ask her out. That's what we can relate to. That's the moment of, you know, when do I put on my big boy pants and just go do it? And it's like, if you weigh the risks, what if she says no? Well, you're not going out with her anyway. What if she says yes? You know, and that's the sort of thing where even like with women, the most beautiful women I know are very self-conscious, and I don't know why that is. So everyone has their own demons inside that they think are bigger than them, but they can get past them. And it's just that little bit of confidence that I got this. And that's kind of what it was. It's like I went up, not to talk about bin Laden, but I went up the last set of stairs. It wasn't because let's be brave and defend the world. It was, I'm going to blow up. I'm just tired of thinking about it. Let's get this over with. But then something great happens. So the advice,
meaning that you thought you were going to die, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, let's go get him and save the world. It was like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just do it. There's two of us left. Let's just do it. Tired of it.
Rob, I've got a question. I've seen your posts and I've been following you for some time. And in the past, I've been not critical necessarily, but just skeptical, because sometimes it seems like you bring up bin Laden quite often. And I'm like, man, does this guy take like pride in that? Or what? Like, why do you share that the way that you do? I'm very curious about that.
Because I get asked by every single person I meet face to face or online. If I respond, take a DM, every single person I meet every single day of my life asks me about bin Laden. I can't get away from it. And sometimes now I think that my team, and you'll notice in Dakota too, we're really good because of our senses of humor. Because if you can keep morale up, I don't give a shit if you're running an HVAC company or you're a plumber or you're a carpenter. If your people coming to work are happy, they're going to work harder. So, you know, and you know, as a vet that, the sense of humor is very dark, but that's what the camaraderie. So if I take enough shit from people, I'll just shove it right in their face. And that's purely for my enjoyment. I'm not trying to get any lessons out of that. The lessons learned with like the bin Laden raid were how good our intel people are when they need to be. I always say too, I was smart enough to carry a sledgehammer and a gun and have a woman say he's that way. It's not like I did anything. The pilots who flew us in are amazing. But, you know, if you follow me on social media, chances are I'm not being very serious.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's a great way to navigate some of these challenging issues. I think a lot of the times, just because I've been around it to some degree, I get the humor. I think sometimes people have a really hard time understanding the dark humor that a lot of veterans have. Because they've just never been exposed to it. And they think it's bad or evil or disgust or whatever.
But
and
see,
it's like, no, they're joking. It's camaraderie.
That's another example of, if they're offended by something I said, wow, that sure is their problem, isn't it?
Well, I think people could stand to be offended a little bit more and then just have to sit in it and deal with it.
Well, that's where a lot of really good humor comes from, is being offended and then showing some irony in something you're saying. And I mean, if you see some of the posts Dakota and I have, it's some of the most self-deprecating humor, but it's funny. I mean, get over yourself. Get over it.
I mean, you know, and what people don't see are, and let's be honest. I mean, just like let's say your post, Ryan, right? I mean, you're always out there. You know, you post because you know what people want to hear.
Yeah.
Right. Like you post because like your platform, like again, are you going to post that? Oh, you know, I'm going out today to go grocery shopping. No, because nobody
No,
gives
of course
a
not.
shit about it. Right. So again,
Right.
when all this is looked at, and again, this is where again, social media is 100% fake. Because at the end of the day, like, do you think Rob sits around with his beautiful wife who's a badass and all he talks about? Rob was with me all weekend. You think all we talked about was, me getting a Medal of Honor and him going to kill Bin
War
Laden?
stories.
No.
Sure.
You know what we talked about? You know what we talked about? We talked about how we can't wait for the day that we don't have to, he doesn't have to mention Bin Laden, and I can literally delete all my social media and I can go and be somewhere where no one even knows who Dakota Meyer is. Like, that is our goal. That's our dream, is so that we don't, I mean, do you think we want to live the, what Rob doesn't, and I'll say this, and what he doesn't say is, yeah, everybody wants to hear about, oh, the time he killed Bin Laden, how cool it was, right? But what they don't understand is Rob shot Bin Laden, threw his gun down, and goes straight over it and grabs Bin Laden's kids. That's what Rob remembers. You know what I mean? And like, that's the aspect that, like, people, we're not reality TV shows.
No.
We're not reality TV shows. Like, they bring us up and people want this entertainment. Like, they use us as like they want to hear our stories as entertainment, which is great, right? As long as we can inspire and help people, get through whatever they're going through. But on the backside of it, when people sit back and they're like, oh, all you talk about is this. Like, I did that post about people wearing body armor, right? And
I remember that, the tactical stuff.
The internet shook.
Oh, they did. They didn't like that at all.
Yeah, man.
They shook. And it was like, they took it out of context.
Oh, yeah.
It was all true and it hurt their feelings. But they all group up and attack because they don't want to look in the mirror, right? And so it's just all these things. Like, I understand it, but perception is not reality.
Dude, prime example right there. That's a great segue. Is I made a story about what you said, and I'm like, hey, don't say this, blah blah blah. And it was on my story. So someone went to one of my posts and said, you just did a story about Dakota. Why can't you put it on your post and defend yourself like a man in the comments? I'm like, what?
Defend yourself like a man on Twitter?
In the comments. Jesus. But I mean, I get it too. It's like, if you're yelling that loud about wearing your body armor at the range and playing whatever the airsoft, it's like, you kind of know what you're doing. Hey, I'm all about it. Go train and shit, but let's not, come on.
I always laughed about it because they were like, oh, look at our founding fathers. And I'm like, yeah. And ever since we became a country, there's been a military that's protected.
Yeah. Look at our founding fathers.
Just throwing it out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They wintered at Valley Fort for 7 winters, fighting the redcoats. You guys can't get up I-95 in a snowstorm. But I'm sure George Washington and John Adams were proud as shit.
So here's an interesting thought, because some of what you said a minute ago, Dakota, about I pray for the day or wait for the day where I can just people leave me alone and I can go do what I want to do. I feel that too, and I also feel a need, probably like you guys do, to share my perspectives and share my thoughts and to help influence people positively. So how do you strike that dichotomy between wanting to inspire and serve and also just wanting to be left the hell alone?
Well, I mean, the reality is this, look, neither one of us, none of the three of us who are sitting on this podcast right now are ever going to do that because of that aspect of service that we still have in us, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, we could all go and probably quit today and find a job and not be known, but we understand the fact of service and still continuing to serve and make a difference. And look, yeah, as much as that's what we dream of, I think that all three of us who are sitting here right now will continue to do whatever it takes to contribute to making the world a better place. And that's just the hard reality of it. And that's just because that's what we do, right?
Yeah. And I one more thing too, just about how the internet is fake. I still go to a lot of ranges, and the range dudes are awesome. Guys that know how to use guns are great too. And it's never that argument ever at the range, because it's all about, hey, I got this tip here, and let's try that. What do you know about this? And obviously take the cool guy picture with the guns and all that shit. The mad range guys are never at the range like trying to get better. They're just the internet guys that get pissed off. It's just the real world. The whole point too, going back to it, of this book, The Way Forward, is, I mean, we're all pretty much the same. Like, we all came from somewhere. That's it. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I don't find, well, in fact, I haven't found anybody who's openly criticized, privately, sure, because they care about me, but openly criticized me or picked apart what I'm doing, who's actually succeeding more than I am in that particular subject.
You'll never find that.
Hey, you know why? Because people who are more successful than you, they're not paying attention to you.
They don't care.
Well, and if they are, they want to help, actually.
Whoa.
So I know people. Andy Frisilla is somebody who comes to mind for me.
That is awesome.
And I know you guys know Andy. He's way more successful than I am. And yet I wouldn't say he's paying attention necessarily, but he's going to message me and say, hey, bro, here's where you're wrong on that thing. But he's not going to blast me publicly. He's going to say, hey, here's why, here's what you're doing, here's what I think. And so that's somebody who is leading from the top down.
Yeah. And then, just to be fair, Andy's successful, more successful than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Right. Yeah. For sure.
Like
you just lump me into the category that he's more successful than.
When I joke about my friends on their private jet, he's not joking. Like, that's legit.
That's right. Yeah. That's not one of those Instagram fake studios of the jet.
Yeah, he's not the guy telling the girl he met on Tinder, like, hey, I forgot my credit card. I'm a little light on this dinner.
Right. One of the other things you guys talk about as a theme in the book is lasting legacy. So I'm very curious to hear if you had to define what your personal legacy would be or want it to be. Dakota, why don't you lead off? What would you want that to be?
When I die, I just want people to first off, I want to have left my daughters understanding what a man looks like. How a man acts, how a man treats women, how a man holds himself and carries himself every single day, right? So that's number one. Outside that, then it goes to my circle, right? My circle of friends. I want to make sure that every single day that, and backside of it on my kids, I make sure that they understand what a man looks like and that they know that they're loved, right? And that they know that they're enough and that they matter. And then I want my friends to be the same way. I want my circle of friends to understand that they matter, that I love them, and that I appreciated them for everything that they've done for me and that to help me get to where I'm at. And then, to the world, like, I just want people to know that, look, right or wrong, whether you like me or I didn't, there's no question what my intent was, right? Whether I went about it the right way, whether, look, there's no chance that anybody will ever look at and refer the name Dakota Meyer in the same sentence as his delivery was right on, right? It's not going to happen. But I don't think that they can question my intent and what the intent was behind it. And the intent is to make the world a better place. And you do that by caring about each other. And you do that by getting up every day and leaving it all on the table. And that's what I hope to leave as a legacy, that, at the end of the day, you can critique whatever, say whatever, question whatever, but you can't question what my intent was. And that's to make the world a better place.
I'm really glad that you brought up the intent and the delivery, because that's one of the things I personally struggle with. Is I've got these ideas and these concepts and they're not always popular, and I share them, but I kind of just word vomit it at times. And I end up leaving a wake of collateral damage in my path because I don't think about, how that might come across or how somebody might receive it. So trying to find that balance or the harmony between my intention and the way I deliver it has constantly proved to be a struggle for me.
Yeah. And the thing is, and it's such a fine line, because if you think about how you deliver it because you're worried about what everyone else is going to say, then you're not going to be able to get your message across as,
good point.
Like it almost takes away like your creativeness to your message, right? And so it's such a fine line. And how cool would it be if we lived in a world to where people said, instead of saying, hey, you're messed up because you said this, if they said, hey, when you said this, this is how it came off to me. And you'd be like, oh, well, now all I need to do is tweak it about 5% right here to where that makes sense. I can see that, to where maybe I add a couple words in there or take one out and get it there, right? But instead it's like, nope, right off the bat. If it doesn't strike me the right way, you're done.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of grace that needs to be afforded on everybody's end. I'm saying the people who are listening, I'm saying you guys, and I'm sure as heck saying me, the ability to afford more grace and nuance. And again, that goes back to the social media thing. There's not a lot of nuance in, the 40 characters you post on Twitter. But if you stop and think about it, or you're fortunate enough to be able to have conversations like this, you start to realize there's a lot more weight behind the words that are being used.
Yeah, 100%.
Rob, how about you on the legacy question?
I'm with Dakota on the kids. I actually got to hang out with Dakota's kids yesterday, and they are absolutely hilarious. Very respectful to the point, but they're still young girls, and just funny watching them run around that house. I have daughters myself. And as far as a legacy, all I really care about is, like Dakota said, they know how to be adults, how to treat each other. The social media stuff's not real. They're pretty good about that. I could use a little less TikTok for them, but I want to make sure they're taken care of. Whatever I'm able to make, I want to make sure that they have an opportunity to be taken care of. I don't want to give them handouts or anything like that. And I would say I want my wife, Jessica. Jessica is actually Dakota's best friend. He knows this. I would say I want Jessica to be taken care of, but the second I die, she's jumping in that coffin with me. So she's going down with me. But she and her family, and I like that. She's got a great family, a small family. And I want to make sure anything that I can provide, be it everything from advice or monetarily or to real estate, that they have something I offer them. And that's it. As far as the other shit, I don't need people to think of me one way or the other. Just think that, just know that if when I do go to heaven, I'm going to be up there drinking with Jesus. I'm either going to haunt you or I'm going to make you laugh. It's up to you. We're doing one.
I'll take laugh.
Jesus drinks wine. Let's be honest about this. We all know this.
No, I can appreciate. I've thought about it in the past. If it's morbid, obviously, but I think it's important to consider. When I die, there's probably like 10 people who will really be impacted for any significant amount of time. There might be thousands who are like, oh shit, Ryan died. Okay. And then they're on to whatever else they're doing. Yeah, but there's only 10 that matter.
How messed up is that? Like everyone, we've talked about everyone's important to someone, even our enemies. I know damn well, say I drop dead right now on Twitter. Oh, anti-masker O'Neill's dead. Ha ha ha. It's like, what the fuck was that, dude?
Or this podcast would blow up. Look, Rob died on Ryan's podcast. Look at this. And it would go viral.
Ryan, if I die on your podcast, you better get at least 1 million more views.
Oh, I'm going to use that thing, man. I am.
If you die on this podcast, I'm going to jump in my car. I'm going to drive down to where you're at right now. I'm going to throw you in the back of my truck, and I'm going to drive you around town, take you to taxidermy.
Can you imagine? That's a good idea for a joint podcast.
Taxidermy? Is that what you said?
Get me stuff. Get me stuff to put me in the house. Dude, can you imagine having a joint, like, for example, a podcast with 3 of us called If You Die on This Podcast?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, that'll work.
Well, look, hey, let's stay on the same thread, but shift the tone of the conversation a little bit with the morbidity and death. Dakota, you've been very open. In fact, when you were on my podcast years ago, probably at this point, you talked about your struggles with depression and even suicide. Rob, is that something that you've personally dealt with? The darkness, even suicidal attempts, and how did that all play out?
There's no suicidal attempts because I believe I'm well trained enough as a special operator. If I want to kill myself, I could just do it. I've never understood suicide attempts. If you find me in a room with my head blown off and a shotgun next to me, I figured it out. But
I bet they would still question if you took the shot.
Yeah. Rob O'Neill claims to have killed himself.
Rob O'Neill claims to have killed himself.
Oh, I'm so glad we can laugh about suicide. You guys are amazing. But but like when we were at the height of our operational status, especially in Iraq in 2007-ish, when we're going out on kill missions every night trying to win the war as far as the awakening and the surge, it just seemed normal. And it was almost like, it's like the herd mentality of, well, we're all doing it, so it's going to be fine and it's moral, and it didn't bother me at all. It's like, it was almost to the point where I got to kill more guys than my buddy next to me because he got 3 last night. I need to get more type shit. But the more you get away from it, and like we were talking about earlier, the realization that this is not normal. These are real people you're dealing with. You're hurting real families. There's one family that comes to me, like when we mentioned earlier that the bad guys don't even know they're the bad guys. I remember going into the wrong house in Iraq at night. They had a beautiful house, white carpet. I'm covered in mud, putting it all over the place. The only people that came out were a woman and her daughter. And I'm standing there, wrong house. And I thought to myself, I understand why they hate us.
Of course. Why wouldn't they?
So the further you get away from it, there's the depression comes in because it's not just the people you killed, it's the buddies you lost. It's the debacle, the way we went out of Afghanistan. It's like I know there was 31 Americans on Extortion 17 that were shot down on August 6, 2011. There's a bunch of dads that are no longer going home. Why again? You think about Iraq, friends that stepped on bombs and died, and you start to think, well, basically, George Bush invaded Iraq because he was mad that Saddam Hussein tried to kill his dad. So let's just go kill a couple 100,000 people. And now I'm to the point, it's like, Iraq, what was that all about? And
do you think that was the real motive with going back to Iraq?
It had a lot to do with it, because about 2 weeks after the towers fell, the Pentagon was already drawing up plans to invade Iraq, which we know damn well had, not only did it have nothing to do with 9/11, had nothing to do with anything other than oil.
And I think you can't get off Dick Cheney either, who made more money off these wars than
anthrax shots, that son of a bitch,
than anybody we know, right? Like, look, you want to know why these wars are driven? Raytheon. I mean,
Lockheed Martin.
Look at them, and if you think that that's not real.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally real. I mean, look at Ukraine right now. Name one interest we have in Ukraine. None. But like even with the other stuff, I mean, I'll even trying to keep the sense of humor light, because like either side will say, well, Clinton is a draft dodger. Well, Trump's a draft dodger. I'm like, hey, let's all be honest. So George Bush during the Vietnam War, he did a hell of a job keeping the VC out of Texas. But yeah, I mean, so the stuff like that where I think a lot of veterans, I myself included, I start to question, what the fuck was I doing forever? And especially with a lot of veterans, because the VA sucks so bad, you can't get the good treatment you need, the psychedelic treatment you need. I go to the liquor store, and that's my darkest times, man, because I'll just self-medicate, and you think you're going to be fine, and it just. And I haven't thought suicide, but it has made sense before, and I know a lot of vets are there. A lot of vets actually,
and it's
bad. It's bad, and they should get the treatment that they deserve. And they shouldn't be wasting money on a lot. Like, there are veterans that have PTSD. You don't even need to be a veteran to have PTSD. That's something else,
of course.
That we're all sure. With. And again, back down to the normality of being a human being. What I tell people is, if you're having a bad day, call someone now. Get out of bed, call someone. But if you're having a good day, get out of bed and call someone. They might be having a bad day. But yeah, yes, the PTSD is very real. And I didn't want to admit it till a couple of years ago. It's there, it's real, and it's a daily thing.
Well, the PTSD thing is hard for me. Not that I don't believe that that's a real issue that millions of people are dealing with. I think it's being exploited, and that's what I get frustrated with.
Oh, it's
I get frustrated with people who are making themselves into victims and trying to get attention. No doubt about it. And then it does a disservice to people who actually need help.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to say too with the some of the programs and whatnot. Here's a prime example. I fly a lot, which means I get to see people in their natural environment, which is transit. I don't know what there's more of in an airport: fake people that aren't disabled, just fat in wheelchairs, or fake service animals.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, right? Look, here we go to the polarizing, Ryan. But I think it's not just PTSD. I think it's veterans in general. Right? Like, we were told that we're greater than everybody else from day one for serving, that we're all heroes, we were literally told that we're better, that the nation owes us. You've served this country, you've done enough, right? I mean, literally, like, these have been put in our heads since day one. Oh, thank you for your service. You're a hero. I mean, all these words have just been thrown out there. And at the end of the day, like, the heroes they're the ones that didn't come home.
Yeah,
that's the only heroes that wore the nation's cloth. We got to do that. Do you understand we had the privilege to put on the nation's cloth,
Yeah,
to
sure.
go serve in the most powerful military on the United States of America provided us that opportunity. And now these veterans get out and they look around at the world and they blame the world for our problems, right? Oh, I seen a bunch of bad shit. Well, okay, check it out. So did I. And look, the biggest problem for me was fixing my circle. When I was surrounded by a bunch of people feeling sorry for themselves who were wearing, this PTSD hat or, 100% disabled PTSD hat with their dog. And I mean, it became literally their entire identity. And they had no
that's
reason.
very true.
And so then what they did is they become drunk assholes, and then they blamed PTSD for their problem, and it's their catch-all problem for being an asshole. It's like, no, PTSD didn't make you an asshole. You're just an asshole, and you have PTSD, and you need to fix it, right?
That's very true. Yeah.
And but that's the problem but with that, I think we as veterans, we have a lot of skin in the game of why that's happening. And it's because we're not calling people out. It's because we're not policing our own. We're not holding people accountable for like, I got you got PTSD. What are you doing to get better about it? And you need to stop. Here's the accountability factors. But instead it's like, no, let's go do this retreat. And I see these guys, I'll never forget, back in the day, I used to go do these therapy sessions or whatever you call it, right? Like where they take you fishing or you go on these hunts and all this shit. And they're like, I just feel great here. And then, it's like, I got to go back home and I feel like shit. Well, that's life. Yeah, it's because this is a vacation and that's called life.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Do you have PTSD or do you have LIFE, right? And it's like, but nobody wants to call them to the table, right?
That's true. That's a great point. PTSD is real, but stop blaming everything on PTSD.
Yeah. Oh, I can't get a job because I got PTSD. Well, yeah, you can't walk into an employer and tell them that they can't have dark lights and that you need to bring your dog and you've got 5 VA appointments a day and expect them to pay you full time and accommodate the loud noise that you're. It's crazy.
The two people that really bother me is the middle-aged man who has a mask that says, if you can read this, you're standing too close. And the veteran outside on 4th of July says,
4th of July.
Inside, watch out for fireworks. Fuck you. Enjoy the fireworks. Shut up.
But these are the same guys, like Ryan, like these are the same guys. Like they hated the military when they were in. They were shitbags when they were in. And then they got out. They got the jacked up F-250. They put all their combat ribbon stickers on their back windshield. They grew a beard and they walk around with a t-shirt that says dysfunctional veteran with their hat on and their dog. And then they want to talk about, going to the bar and talking about kicking in doors and shooting people in the face. And it's like, well, if you loved it so much, that's what fucked up your life supposedly. So I don't understand like how this makes sense, right?
Well, I think yes, 100%. You guys are saying it way better than I could, but I just think it comes down to attention a lot of the times. And there's an economy that we live in right now that is based on attention and social media followers and that little blue check on your Instagram or Twitter account. And if you have that, then, well, and the other thing too, is that if you're a victim, whether you are or are not, then you're going to get whatever it is you want.
I think that's the simple thing right there is, are you a victim? That's brilliant. That's the whole thing. It all boils down to the victimhood.
And the reason I say this, Ryan, like I say this and like, I want to follow up before I get just a meltdown city, right? The reason I say this and I say it so passionately is because that was me. That was me. And all those people who, Dakota, from what you've seen, it's okay. No, it wasn't okay me drinking a handle of Crown a day. It was bullshit that you were part of that. It was bullshit you let me act like that. It was bullshit that you let me waste 7 or 8 years of my life being the victim because I thought this was normal because you said it was okay. And it's like, no, it's insane. And it was like, it's just like, until I had my daughter, I mean, that was me. That was me walking around. I'm so embarrassed to say it, but it was me. And I'm just glad that I got around people who I changed from being around people who wanted to feed that to people who wanted to hold me accountable. And that's just
accountability is a big one too.
I'll never forget. I walked into Marcus Luttrell's house. And I think it's in the book. And man, I was down. I was just feeling sorry for myself. And I called him, and Marcus said, "Hey, check it out. Here's my address. I'll see you in 3 hours." I'm like, okay. He's like, just get here. Just get here. Get to the house. And he's like, we'll figure it out. Wow. And I expected to get there and it be like, a whole woe is me session, right? Like, just like it typically would be. And man, I'll never forget, I pulled in there. Marcus was standing behind his couch in his living room. Looked over at me, walked over, gave me a hug. I mean, Marcus is just a giant anyways.
Yeah.
Gave me a hug, and he looked at me and goes, "What the hell's wrong with you?" He said, I mean, literally, I was in the middle of my divorce on Teen Mom. Like the world was crashing on me.
Oh, no doubt.
And he's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" He's like, "Look, you've been through way harder." He's like, "We get to wake up and live this life. We get to walk around and be part of this. Like, we got each other, and with each other, we can get through anything. Like, you need to stop feeling sorry for yourself." And I mean, it was literally that direct of a conversation. And it was one of the moments in my life that just it changed how I approach these things. Now, do I still wake up with anxiety? Do I still have bad days? I do. But like Rob's always told me, are you having a bad life or a bad day, a bad hour or a bad moment? Right. And those are the things that have done way more for me than going in these groups of feeling sorry for myself.
Well, disengaging versus actually dealing with the real issues.
For sure.
What's your guys' take on, we see a lot of military members running for political office. I'd be really curious about your guys' take on that.
I think that's really good, because regardless of the side of the aisle, most veterans aren't going to put party politics first. You see that right now with Tulsi Gabbard's the Democrat, but she's going to speak at CPAC. Like the veterans, for the most part, I think will get in a room and talk to each other, kind of like we're talking to each other. We can work it out. Okay, maybe you're wrong, maybe I'm wrong. Somewhere in the middle, we're going to find this. And most veterans really do have the country first. And I think having vets in there is great, because I think you learn a lot in the military that you don't learn in the civilian side. There's something good about it, like being a veteran, especially deploying overseas, especially being a combat veteran, because we all know there's a difference between a vet and a combat vet. I think it's a good thing. I really do. It's a lot better than these people that wear their suits and call themselves war hawks, because they're the lowest of the low. These lobbyists that get the big contract because of their buddy, because they fund their campaign. The veterans don't do that. I mean, you go to Washington long enough, as you're seeing, the swamp has fangs, and you're going to be a part of it. And it's like even right now, we're the only country in the world that lives on a 4-year cycle. That's kind of how we roll. So the way I feel about it is, the problem in Washington is not the person in the White House for 4 or 8 years; it's the person in the Capitol for 50 years. So getting more veterans in there, it's like I don't want to get all political because we're coming up on time here, but like term limits is never going to happen. If we keep these same people in there, like Nancy Pelosi is running for her 19th term because we got to make some change in Washington. The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good too, because these are the people that are sending our sons and daughters to war,
not theirs.
So like, I want you to know, I want to know that you understand the stakes of what's going down here.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah,
Dakota, what do you think?
But you can't, and I got that, right? Like, I would love to see more veterans serving in Congress, but at the end of the day, like, veterans they never screened veterans for morals, right? Like, they never screened veterans. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
So again, like, I think that title holds so much weight inside the United States that I mean, I've seen some veterans that I thought were friends that got up there and have literally just have gone off the deep end. And I mean, look, I think a perfect example is a man who rode on his veteran status for a long time was John McCain, right? And you know, it's like I told him, and I'll say this because I told it straight to his face. You know, he stopped serving his country as soon as he got out of the military. And you know, you look at you. I just don't think that. I understand that veteran and serving your country is something that is a huge title and has a lot of weight. But I just think on the backside of it, you know, just like being a Medal of Honor recipient, just because you got the Medal of Honor, they didn't do any character screening or moral screening, right? Like all they did was go off the actions that happened that day. It doesn't mean I'm a good person. It doesn't mean that I should have any credibility in any space other than, you know, that I was good for one day. And so I just think that, like, yeah, I think we need more veterans up there because of the perspective that they have. But I think that what's more important to that is that we need good people up there.
I'm still going to rely back on. I'd rather have a veteran than a lawyer.
Well, but again, I said good people.
Oh, fair enough. Jeez.
Well, look, I think you're right. I think that's a valid point, is that it's something that's on the resume, but it's not the only thing that's on the resume. We need to look at what else is going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, as we close this out, guys, what message do you want to share at the bottom line, at the root of all of it, from the way forward, the book, and just your message and what you want to put out there in general?
Go, Rob.
Just in general, like we've sort of said a few times, that most of us are the same, and you don't need to be putting people on a pedestal just because there's somebody else. Just because somebody shot a famous guy, or someone can dunk a basketball, or someone can run a 4.240. I mean, well, the 4.240, he's probably better than you, but okay, those are the 1%ers. But most people, like even with Navy SEALs, one of the common things is they say, well, you don't look like a Navy SEAL. And it's like, well, what does a Navy SEAL look like? These are normal dudes. Most of us there were normal, but we get it. Whatever it is, we get it. And also whatever it is, we can get over it. Like if you hold a grudge forever, you're not going to be very successful in life. If you learn from something, get over it. That's it. I mean, but normal people following good advice, be nice. You can do whatever you want. That's pretty much the premise of the book. And then a lot of humor too. I mean, I know we're selling the book. It is worth picking up the way forward to read the chapter where I go hunting with my brother, who's more of a, I don't know, weed smoker than a hunter. Great story.
All right. We'll make sure we get to the guys so they can check out that story exclusively. Yeah. Dakota, how about you, brother?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, look, like the way forward is it's not just a book title. It's not just I mean, it's literally the way of life, right? The way forward. You talk about, I mean, Ryan, you know about jiu-jitsu, right? Like, what is the most vulnerable place on you? Your back.
Yeah.
Right.
Back, sure.
So like maintaining a way forward, understanding there's a way forward, keeping your shoulders facing forward, quit looking in the rearview mirror. You know, you look in your car, you drive a car, people drive cars every day. Your windshield is so much bigger than your rearview mirror. Imagine trying to drive your car and only looking at your rearview mirror. What's going to happen? You're going to crash, right? So, I mean, you know, look, wake up every single day and give your best and do two things. Do something every single day to make yourself better, and do something to make everyone around you better, just a little bit better every day, you know, and stop worrying about the things that don't matter. I think, you know, one of the things I talk about a lot is flying a helicopter. You know, so flying a helicopter, you've got so many things to do. And what we do is we have to just focus on what matters at that time. And I focus on 3 gauges. That's my altitude, that's my airspeed, my power. As long as I have those 3 things, I've got time to figure out whatever else is thrown at me. And that's the way we're at in life, right? Is if you do good, if you do the next right thing, then everything's going to always work out. And there is always a way forward.
Dakota, if you said that so well, I'm going to go try to find a copy of this book. That was really good.
Pick up a copy of this book, man. This is good.
I love it.
Guys, I appreciate you both. I appreciate all you do, and always your willingness, even maybe in slight disagreement, to speak what's on your mind, to put it out there, because the more people that are doing that and the more conversations we're having like this, the better off we are. So guys, pick up a copy of the book, The Way Forward, connect with these guys. Appreciate you both. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Seriously appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.